going.
The person that wins in the game of entrepreneurship is the one that puts their head down, does it. They might take a loss, they might take a win, but then they'll just do it again. And then they'll do it again, dust themselves off, do it again. The person that loses in the game of entrepreneurship is the person that just doesn't do it in the first place. All right. What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the CONQUER.AMZ podcast. In today's episode, we are discussing analysis paralysis and everything to do with that and how you can overcome analysis paralysis to have your desired outcomes, right? So, yeah, let's get it cranking.
So I think where we should start with is, I guess, what our definition of analysis paralysis actually is. Like, what are we talking about when we say these words? So when we talk about analysis paralysis, is basically specifically for an Amazon business, and when you're doing your product research, you're going through the Conquer Launchpad, you're collecting the data, you're eliminating products, and then you're finding the products that, yes, you know, something could happen with these products. You're speaking to suppliers, and you're taking all these steps forward. But when it comes to, you know, putting your money where your mouth is, something happens.
Yeah, so, and that's where you got to pull the trigger, right?
Yeah, so pulling the trigger doesn't get done.
Yeah, so it means that analysis paralysis is that you spend a lot of the time just before pulling that trigger, or, you know, diving in, or whatever you want to call it. That is analysis paralysis. And often so many people, and we've all been, you know, guilty of that as well, it happens that you get stuck in this period, you get stuck in analysis paralysis. And
you're overthinking, and that's what we're gonna that's what we're gonna talk about here.
Well, like
so what I want
simple
to say,
terms is like you're over-analyzing something. For example, so you found a really good product, but you're like, oh, maybe there's not enough, like there's too much competition, or maybe, even though you've got all the numbers and you know it's there, you're like, oh, but maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, and you don't then pull the trigger because you're over-analyzing too much, and sometimes that can stop you progressing on your journey.
And really the core of analysis paralysis is fear, right? Everyone has a fear that, like, well, I'm going to just sabotage this now because I'm scared of failing.
That's right.
That's really what analysis paralysis is. When you really dig down to the foundation of the core of it, it's the fear of failure.
Yeah.
And overcoming the fear of failure, I mean, you don't really overcome it. And I've touched on this in another podcast, like, every single time you kind of place an order with a supplier and you're growing your business, it gets more and more and more. It never gets easier. It actually kind of gets harder because there's more on the table.
There's more and more money that you're looking at. So we're talking about,
that's the growth, though.
It's the fear. So what are we fearing? We're feeling of failure. There's the self-doubt. There's overwhelm. And when you're right at the beginning of your journey, so you're going through your first process of actually finding a product and launching a product, that's the fear is almost at, you know, one of the highest points, because you've never done this process before. You are completely in new territory. You're completely outside of your comfort zone, and it takes a lot of courage. What you're doing now, trying something different, whether it's a side hustle or a change of career, it takes a lot of courage. And we're so happy for you. We congratulate you for taking those steps and those leaps. But then when you're overwhelmed and you're paralyzed and you can't step forward, you know, we want to talk about what can you do to actually overcome it.
And would you also agree that this is a common occurrence normally in the product research stage, and then also getting to the ordering, like you sort of this is where we notice it with students, is like people get a little bit stuck on the product research and they're a bit too much worrying about things, and also getting to that final order when they got to put their money where their mouth is. So you do agree on that?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's understandable, right? Because I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to find that winning, perfect product that's going to be absolutely revolutionary and completely different to everything on the market. But really, the greatest teacher is experience.
Yeah.
So to gain valuable experience, you need to take risks. You need to do stuff to actually gain experience. And with more experience over time, you get better at what you're doing, and you have then wisdom. And with wisdom, you're able to
get confidence.
Build confidence, and then therefore garnish greater results.
Make quicker decisions. Make those decisions at a faster rate because you've done it before. And when you're getting stuck in this sort of analysis paralysis, you slow down. It's like you go into slow-mo, and then you might even miss your opportunity because sometimes things come and go. And if you might have found a really good product that could have got your journey started, but then you've waited 3 or 4 months to launch it. Someone gets in there before you. You could have had that.
The data changes.
So you can't be stuck too long in certain periods of time doing research, waiting to pull the trigger, you need to get going.
The person that wins in the game of entrepreneurship is the one that puts their head down, does it. They might take a loss, they might take a win, but then they'll just do it again. And then they'll do it again, dust themselves off, do it again. The person that loses in the game of entrepreneurship is the person that just doesn't do it in the first place. Ultimately, if you just keep doing it and you keep showing up and like win or fail, you will succeed, because the person that doesn't give up will force their way to success. Like, that's kind of how it works. And that kind of, I have a question. So I reckon it would be powerful if we went around, like, do we have an example of maybe a personal story of analysis paralysis, and then maybe even a personal victory of overcoming analysis paralysis? It's kind of on the spot,
we're on the spot.
Kind of on the spot, but
well, I think
I could go straight up.
Okay.
Like, straight up. To be fair, like when I left plumbing, for an example, that it took me a long time to leave plumbing, to pull the trigger on that, because of the fear of taking that next leap. And now that's not to do with product research, and maybe not to do with like buying into a new product, but it's to do with my career path and how I did that. I probably could have left 6 months earlier if I pulled the trigger. My funds and my capital going into it weren't that much different from 6 months before, but it was like that slight holding off, like analyzing where my funds were, my finances were, where my career was, what I wanted to do, was I enjoying myself. I probably overanalyzed that too much.
Do you wish you left 6 months earlier?
I probably, if I look at where I am now, I think I could have got away with leaving 6 months earlier, and I could be maybe further ahead.
Yeah.
It may have stopped me from the learnings I had, the amount I learned and the amount I grew once I left my job could have happened earlier if I didn't analyze and overthink things. I think that's probably one of mine I can bring up without even thinking too much about it.
Yeah, that's sick. That's powerful, and I think a lot of people watching this might kind of be in that position where they are still working jobs and stuff, so they'll take a lot of inspiration from that story.
Yeah, and it is like, you do think about it, like you think about every little aspect so much, like, can I do this? Am I worthy? Have I learned enough? Have I got the right amount of capital? And sometimes, like, you just need to take that leap and then give it a shot, because you'll soon learn more. You'll work out if you can do it, and if you can't, there's nothing you can't worry about that.
Yeah.
But that's a big one. That's a big analysis paralysis.
What really just stood out for me, what you just said, was, am I worthy?
Yeah.
And I think that, and this is something we talk about a lot, self-worth does play an incredibly big role in success, because if you do not deem yourself worthy of having something, you will subconsciously self-sabotage yourself, or consciously. But if you do not believe that you can make X, or you're worthy of making X amount of money, you will not allow yourself to have that amount of money. So working through self-worth, and truly there's only one way to build self-worth, and that is by taking action and proving to yourself. You have to prove to yourself over and over and over, and that brings us back to analysis paralysis. So if you want to build that self-worth, you have to overcome that analysis paralysis.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
When you were telling the story, I was like, ticking in my head, what's an example? And I think I didn't. A clear example, I guess, didn't come up, but I know that, as you said, Eric, we talk about this all the time, that I know that for myself, my analysis paralysis is because of self-doubt. So that's where I know that analysis paralysis, I'm not backing myself, I don't have that self-belief. It can stem from self-worth as well. And then I procrastinate and I do everything else except the task at hand. The task that ultimately I know is the thing that's going to bring me closer to my goals, the ultimate life that I'm desiring or that I'm working towards. And that it's that one task that I haven't built that self-worth around. And self-worth is, I think we could talk about hours on it.
Yeah.
It stems from, childhood traumas, parenting, your life experiences. But ultimately, it comes down to, what are the conversations that you're having in your head every single day? It's that quote that, you are constantly talking to yourself. And that's the most important conversation that you're going to have in that day, is that voice in your head, and what are they saying to you? And sometimes people are very aware of it, and sometimes you don't actually realize how negative it truly is and how it's impacting everything in your life and you taking action and the decisions that you're making.
That's true. And that voice in your head that you just mentioned, everyone gets it, and the voice can be brutal. The voice can be brutal, but there is one way that I've at least found in my experience to really hush the voice, and that is through implementing discipline. Being extremely disciplined in yourself, because then you don't give the voice the ability to say anything. But if you don't have that discipline, you can start beating yourself up even more. That voice can really up. Oh, you can't do it. Look, you won't even do the task, as an example. If you build that discipline, that hushes the voice down, because you're like, well, look, bitch, I'm getting it done.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't mind bringing it back a little bit more towards Amazon again. We went a little bit off. It's all very relevant.
Well,
I started that scenario.
Yeah, I've got
creating the concept.
I was about to do mine, and mine's very relevant to Amazon.
Yeah.
It's actually in our most recent 100K product launch, right? Mm-hmm. So a little bit of context. So we recently launched a brand new product in Australia and USA, and that's done about $120,000 in sales in like 20 days, right?
Yeah.
With 40% profit margin, so really, really good. Even when we were deciding on this product and we were placing the orders, there was a little bit of analysis paralysis, and that's what I was saying earlier. It doesn't really go away. There was always that little bit of doubt or fear, being like, what if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
What if the competition gets better? What if this happens? What if this happens? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, you just got to pay that. That's exactly what we did, and in 20 days we did personal PBs, right? 120K in sales. So analysis paralysis doesn't really get easier, but I mean, if you don't do it, what's the outcome? Nothing. Yeah. If you do it, you're gonna learn.
I want you to explain a little bit. Like, I'm thinking from this idea, if like some of our students are getting samples right now. Now you might be looking for the perfect sample. Now, I know that for a fact, when you got your samples, you then found a way to make them better. So if you're waiting for that perfect sample, you might not get the idea to make it better. So if you get a couple of samples straight away, you get them, you're like, okay, well, what if I do this? What if I do that? You can't do that if you're still trying to find that sample. So you've got to start pulling the trigger at an early stage, even though it might cost you a little bit more money here and there. That is when you can really upgrade your listing, upgrade your product, because you've actually taken the time to think of something that's better. And you did that. And we did that with the most recent product. You've got some samples and you're like, okay, well, this works. I can make this all better into one. Yeah. Now, if you don't pull the trigger on those samples, you're never going to have the ideas that come to you.
And just quickly on the subject of samples, our house is littered with random samples. It's not that every sample we've bought will be like, oh, we bought that sample, we've committed, we're locked in, we have to launch this product. It's not at all. We've got multiple samples of one product and then decided not to go ahead, and vice versa on many products, and that's just part of the business of Amazon. And I know that I've had a few students and been like, oh, I finally pulled the trigger on samples. Samples is something that as soon as you've got a product, you're like, this is interesting, the data adds up, just order that sample. Order that sample and then forget about it until it comes, and keep on doing your product research. Because there's no reason why you're doing all this product research, you're umming and ahhing, finally doing a sample, and then you're going to sit there and twiddle your fingers for 2-4 weeks until the sample comes, because you've put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. And have many, and know that also with Amazon, with any business, you will need to put money. You need to invest into that business. So don't shy away. Expect that you need to spend money to make money. So don't be shying away. Oh, this product costs $50.
And to add to that as well, like if you get a sample, and this is from an example of a sample. That's the gun rhyme that I had recently with one of our students, that they had their samples and they weren't overly happy with them, and they were still like umming and ahhing whether they go ahead. If you're not happy with it, move on. Find another sample. Find another product. If you're not happy with the quality, you're not happy with it, but you're like, maybe it could still work. That's a red flag. So as soon as you're having doubts on the quality or the product or your idea, find another one. That's not analysis paralysis. That's being like, that's just good research and analyzing your product and making a decision. Don't and ah and wait forever and ever, because you're just wasting time. Move on. Yeah. Either go ahead or move on and find the next thing.
That's right. You can't get emotionally attached to products because it's a business. When Chris and I bought our first investment property, the company, the man that we were going through, he was like, it's not your house, it's the house. Don't get emotionally attached to it. It's an investment property. It just sits there. It's there to generate money, or for the future. We don't have to worry about it now. And that's how your products are. They are your business. Don't get emotionally attached to it. It's like, if it's not this one, then it's the next one.
It's all a data game, isn't it?
Yeah,
like if the demand's there, you can visually differentiate it, and the product has gas factor, what we call gas factor, what we teach our students, which is a give a shit factor, then you can sell it. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful, sexiest, whatever product. If it's generating you an income, you're going to be pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
you're going to be pretty happy with it.
Exactly right. And I think I want to now going back, I want to bring it back to our launch pad. So how we've created our launch pad for you guys is that obviously it's a step-by-step process. You're doing one thing at a time, but then also you have that process of elimination. So when you get back to the end of the tabs, there should be a few products.
Tab 7. It's tab 7. You get to that stage, and it literally gives you kind of a yes or no if the product's viable. So we've really set it up in a way that it's literally as step by step as it can get. And by the time you get to tab 7, it pretty much eliminates analysis paralysis, because
That's right.
I mean, we're not taking complete responsibility for being like, yes, this is the best product, you have to do this one, but it gives you a very educated answer on if this product is most likely viable or not.
That's right.
And we've got a whole heap of students right now that are going through that stage and have actually now placed their orders. I know I've got a couple students who have their orders on the water,
Which is awesome.
that'll be in the next 2 weeks, and man, I'm excited for this. These results
Most
are going to be
definitely.
crazy. I've seen their listings, I've seen the products, they follow the teachings, and yeah, exciting times ahead.
Yeah.
With the Launchpad as well, sorry, I just want to mention that's exactly what we used for our most recent product as well. And we did actually just shoot a little video, right, that we put exclusively into our Facebook community, where we unpacked the Launchpad, out the product in the Launchpad, all the numbers, all the data that matches up to exactly what we teach, and the response was phenomenal as well. So,
and I want to like roll on from that point, because one of the other points we want to talk about today is the experience you get from pulling the trigger. Talking about that, how quickly we were able to get this product out comes from experience, comes from doing. So I think that's something we need to touch on to do with analysis paralysis as that experience comes. I want to go back to that point a bit more.
Yeah.
How much you grow from doing this, how much you grow from ordering a few samples. And every time you order a sample, you actually, then you have to analyze it, and you're getting better at analyzing a product. You're getting better at analyzing a listing. Every time you do
even
a new
moving
listing,
beyond that, every time you place your order and you have a product on Amazon, you do the entire process,
better.
especially after the first time. The first one's the hardest. Once you get the first one out of the way, second product, third product, fourth product, it becomes like clockwork, baby. It becomes
supplies,
smooth.
paperwork, everything. Your experience comes and comes and comes, but it's only going to come if you start pulling those triggers.
Yeah, I am on the note of experience. I was having a conversation with someone who's in the who has launched previously on Amazon before, and we were having a chat about things, and she made the comment, she's like, I've been selling for about a year, but I haven't made profit yet, but I know it's part of the game. And my jaw almost dropped, because I do not believe that it's part of the game like that whatsoever. And I do believe there are instances when you put all your eggs in one basket and you do get emotionally attached to a product. You kind of, or it might even be ego. I think it's a combination.
Yeah.
But it's almost that you see a product and it's not doing as well as you want it to be doing, but you just keep on holding on. And really, that's when you're wasting time and money. It's okay to the word escapes me.
It's not giving up, is it? If you just go ahead and choose another product or do something else, you're not giving up. But I think some people get attached also to the concept of like, no, I can't give up. If I do this, it means I'm giving up.
You can discontinue a product. That's what I was going to say.
We did one, where we had sales. We had sales. We still had stock in there, but we realized that it wasn't going to be profitable to keep running this product. So we canned the product. We still made money on it, but it just wasn't profitable to continue on for the next order. And these things happen.
Yeah.
And you just, it's a lesson. It's a learning and a lesson. You then analyze why. You then analyze again. We're talking about analysis paralysis, but you then go analyze why it didn't do well. And that's when you learn, and that's when you don't implement that on your next product. And that's how you get better.
Yeah, and you remember, as we've done this about, I reckon, almost 10 separate times now, going through this process, analyzing, yes, this is good, yes, this is bad, I don't like this, I do like that, and you just keep on going. And that's
10 products that we've launched, right? Because in terms of
Exactly.
doing the process
and
with
samples and stuff,
getting it would be
That's
20 or
right.
30 or 50 goals.
Yeah.
But that's the game. And the thing is with Amazon, like, it's not a get rich quick scheme. No. Like, this is a real business.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the beauty of it, because once you get this up and going and running, you can generate income for this as a real business for a long time, and then you can sell the business as an asset. That's exactly what I did last year. I sold my first Amazon business as a whole. So this is a real business. It's not like drop shipping where everyone kind of is like, oh, I want to get rich really quick. Take a little bit of time to get this up and running. But once you do,
once the structure's
there's beautiful rewards from doing so.
Once the experience there, it just comes like that and like that and like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess
That's probably like that's the main points I think we wanted to cover today when we got into it.
Yeah.
I hope.
So I guess I wanted to now I've got a question to ask in terms of, on the topic of analysis paralysis, I know for a fact we all have students that are messaging us, talking to us, and you guys are saying to us, look, I'm about to order a sample, or I've ordered my sample, but I'm not sure. What is your number one piece of advice for the students that are at
Ordering
the
a
point,
sample specifically?
Ordering, let's say that they're
Or the
just
30% order?
Yeah, they're not quite sure to pull that trigger. If it's a sample, I think we'll just get it out of the way. If you're up to tab 7 and there's a product there, you buy a sample. There's nothing, I think you've done all that work, you buy a sample, that's the next step. But once you have a sample and you've analyzed it, and they're about to put their 30% down, but they're not sure, they're kind of beating around the bush, not sure if the product is okay or if they should do it. And while you're thinking about it, I want to add something to it, because I think at that point, yes, like you can have doubts about the product, but if you know if you know that you've done the work, you've got the data, and it is a data-driven decision, I think at that point, it's all about self-belief. And it's more so your self-doubt that is
my
stopping
answer
you
is
going forward.
if nothing changes, then nothing changes. Think about it like that. If nothing changes, and if you don't do this, then nothing changes. You go back to your normal life.
Yeah.
You tried this thing and it didn't work, and nothing changes. The reason that you did this in the first place was because there's something missing, or you want more. And think about it like this: if you don't just pull that trigger, and like we just talked about for this entire podcast, gain that experience, then nothing changes, and you just go back to what you're doing before.
I put it down to like a sports game. What's the point of doing all the training and then not rocking up to the game? Like you've done all this work so far. Why would you get there and then be like, okay, I'm just going to bench myself? You want to play. You want to play the game.
Yeah.
So you've done the hard work. You've done the research. You've put the money in. You're looking at it. Now you got to go, yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to play. I'm ready. I'm in. Do it. Don't bench yourself. Get going.
That's right. You need to actually get in the arena. Everyone else can give you advice who are just watching, but if they're not actually in the arena, if they're not playing the game, then who fucking cares what they have to say, because they literally have no idea. So it's about you've done the work, back yourself, and push. And obviously, there are ways in terms of if you want to eliminate the risk. Obviously, you need to put your money where your mouth is, but order small orders to begin with. We've had students launch $500 order, and that's where they started. That's all you need to do. Small MOQ, you launch just a few products, and then you can say, yes, I have gone through that product, and that product might do well and you reorder, or you decide, you know what, from that experience, you will learn so much from just pressing live. And then
your
you can
first
go back.
product, yeah, exactly. It's that experience game. Get it out there, get it done, get it cranking, and you learn.
Yeah.
All right, so I reckon, is that a wrap?
That's a wrap for today. We'll see you in the next podcast.
See you in the next
Thanks
one.
for joining us.
See you
Peace.
later.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.